Hello everyone and welcome to Punk Lotto Pod, the game where no one wins. This is the show where we randomly generate a year between 1976, the year of the first Ramones album, and 2018. Then using the Rate Your Music punk charts for that year, we pick one LP and one EP at random to discuss. I'm your co-host Justin Hensley, and I'm joined by my other co-host Dylan Hensley.
Hello.
And for this episode, our year we wound up with is 1992.
2 years after I was born.
Yes. So as a 2-year-old punk, what did you like at that point? Infant?
Sesame Street.
Pink Panther punk. I need to hear that record. So let's take a look at what came out in 1992, because it actually looks like it's a pretty good year.
Is that
No.
Yeah, what came out that year? I'll do my own.
Well, clearly no Fugazi, because it's not number one. Number one's Nick Cave of the Bad Seeds, Henry's Dream, The Jesus Lizard Liar, Bad Religion's Generator, Social Distortions, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell. So far, this is not a great list. Rollins Band, The End of Silence, Nation of Ulysses plays Pretty for Baby.
Yeah.
That should be way higher.
See. Fugazi didn't do anything in 1992. Now you got me wondering, like...
Yeah, I don't think there was one. It's like the one year they didn't
Steady
do
Diet
one.
of Nothing was the year before, In on the Kill Ticker was the year after.
It's the year Bivouac.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's there's a Jawbreaker record that year. Should be higher on this list.
Yeah,
Who
I'm surprised.
is rating Ass Suck or Hell? Social Distortion,
I bet
between Heaven and Hell.
I bet if we did a U.S. charts, Jawbreaker would be in the top 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we didn't limit it. Let's see what happens on the U.S. chart.
Rocket from the Crypt, Circa Now. That's the first good Rocket from the Crypt album. Because that first one, was it Paint as a Fragrance? You can't find it anywhere to listen to. It's like they disowned it. It's not on Spotify. I have heard it's not very good. Jawbox's Novelty.
Ooh, it didn't seem to change that much. Maybe I should listen to that Social Distortion record.
Me.
It's probably too long. See, now I want to like Social Distortion because he beat the shit out of that Trump guy.
Yeah. I love that story.
You didn't
know
what show you were at, did you?
Someone else pointed out that like he had done the same thing in like the 80s with like a Nazi in the audience and like jumped in the crowd and beat the shit out of a Nazi in the crowd. Yeah. So it's like, oh, he has a history of this. This is not unusual.
He has always been violently anti-fascist. Ooh, get your
Body
goat.
Counts.
Shudder to Think.
Get your goat.
That came out.
Body Count, self-titled. Offspring's Ignition. That started off the wild ride of the Offspring. Hey, Mondo Bizarro by the Ramones.
Not the last
That's
one.
that weird one. Second to last.
That is probably the hardest Ramones record.
Yeah. That and what, Acid Eater?
Yeah. More Noise and Other Disturbances by Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Let's see. Super Genius by Circus Lupus. That's a really good record. You ever listen to Circus Lupus?
I think I have listened to that album. I liked it, I think. They're one of those underrated Discord bands that nobody talks about.
Yeah, I think they're really good. I like them more than
Satiate.
Like Lungfish or
even
Shudder to Think.
Avail's Satiate came out. That's the first Avail record. Yeah. Oh. And our album. I finally hit it.
Number 70 on the list.
Yes. And number 105 on the international list. So if I hadn't done US, then I wouldn't have got that one. But I'm curious what I would have wound up with on the international chart. It would have been the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, More Noise and Other Disturbances.
Well, that would have been fun too, I guess.
I guess. So, cool. All right. So, like you just said, number 70 on our album list. That's what we got. And it's a doozy.
He's a suitor.
Number 70 on the punk rock albums list, as rated by United States users, is Samiam's Billy.
not the best Samiam record.
No.
Aces.
But what?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, it's not the best Samiam album. Which do you think is the best Samiam
record?
album?
For some reason, I thought it was like their second.
No, Soar was their second, and it's 17 tracks long.
Yeah, it is.
And Samiam was the first album, and it's 16 tracks long.
And
this one's 13, fortunately. They pared it down.
Starting to cut it down some. Still,
but
50 minutes long.
There are 2 5-minute long songs and 1 7-minute long song on the album. So really, the first 3 albums are about the same length in like time, but there's just less tracks on this one. Best Samiam album is probably...
This will be a controversial opinion, probably.
Astray?
People have strong opinions about Samiam record.
Yeah, it's funny. Because like, if you look at like real nerdy old guys, they think like the first 3 are the best.
Yeah.
Clumsy is great, but it doesn't have as many standout strong songs for me. So I like Astray the best. But even then, sometimes when I'm in a certain mood, Trips is my favorite. But that's definitely an unpopular opinion just because it's the newest one. A lot of people like You're Freaking Me Out, and I've never got into that one.
Yeah, it's got some good songs, but yeah.
Yeah, like you said, this is the third Samiam album. It was released on New Red Archives, which all their first albums were, and it's the last album before signing to Atlantic Records for Clumsy.
It's so weird that Clumsy is the record that came out on.
Yeah. It's weird that they were even signed to Atlantic in the first place. I mean, I know they were riding that Green Day wave.
Yeah.
That's why Jawbox got signed and why Jawbreaker got signed.
Yeah, everybody wanted... Punk was the new grunge.
Yeah, which is funny. Because when you listen to the radio, it really wasn't. It was still all about grunge.
Yeah.
I mean, like, every song on Dookie was, like, a hit, though, practically.
Yeah.
And the Offspring were right after that, which makes sense because, yeah, the Offspring's Ignition came out this year, too, so they have a similar trajectory, except, Shudder to Think signed to a major, too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Why did they think that they should be a major label band? I love Shudder to Think, but...
They're not accessible to mainstream
Not
audiences.
at all. I mean, unless you like...
Yeah, they signed to Epic.
Yeah. I remember people called them sellouts.
Yeah.
Or I read that people called them sellouts. I wasn't paying attention to Shudder to Think in 1990.
Pony Express record is the Epic record.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, going from Discord to the big...
Yeah, they were the first and only band from Discord to ever do that? Go to a major.
Any other major label crossovers? I mean...
Husker Du.
Let's be real. Ian MacKaye was making plenty of money off of Discord Records and Fugazi.
Yeah.
And he's continued to make plenty of money. I mean, he keeps them cheap. Like, you can still buy those records for like $13. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's still making a lot of money.
Yeah. Rocket from the Crypt, they signed a major. Interscope. Yep. Which is, I mean, you don't really think about Interscope that much these days because do they even exist anymore? But
well, I mean, I don't think
were
Epic
a big label.
Does. I mean, I don't think most labels don't exist. They've all been
Warner and Atlantic.
Universal.
Oh, yeah. Even though I just mentioned them signing, I forgot Jawbox was a Tooth and Nail band who signed.
Tooth and Nail?
Tooth and Nail. Jesus Christ.
Jawbox is a Discord band.
A Discord band that signed to a major label after Shudder to Think or before? Special Sweetheart was 94.
Same year, so.
Same year? February is when it came out, so they were probably signed in 93. Oh, yeah, we're talking about Samiam. Billy.
So, first impression of that record.
First impression. Well, I've heard it many times before. Initially, before re-listening to it, it was not one of my favorites. I remember it being kind of boring.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that way now. I just think maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention when I listened to it in the past, and because it's not as immediately grabbing as something like Astray, or Clumsy. But I do think this is the album that kind of solidified the Samiam sound, because if you listen to the self-titled and Soar, they're a little faster and they're a little punkier, for a lack of a better term. This is where they kind of really focused on the melodic side of things.
Yeah, their vocals got a little stronger and a little more like what we...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the lineup for this album is Jason Bebout on vocals, James Brogan on guitar, and Sergei Lubkov on guitar. Also, Martin Braum on bass and David Ayer on drums. So, like, Jason, James, and Sergei are the mainstays of Samiam. Jason and Sergei are still in the band today. Yeah. James is not. He left in 2000. But that's still a majority of their albums. He may even be on Astray, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, he's not on not You're Freaking Me Out. Whatever's Got You Down and Trips. Those are the only two after Astray. Martin Braum and David Ayer. Well, Martin Braum was the original bass player, but this is also his last album with the band.
Yeah.
And David Ayer joined for Soar and then left after this one, too.
Because the bass and drums seem to have kind of rotated.
Yeah, it's the most fluctuating position in the band. David Ayer went on to play in the UK subs for multiple albums.
The personnel on it's Sean Kennerly on bass, and so not even anyone that was on You're Freaking Me Out.
Yeah, those two positions. Yeah, there's a lot on a lot of albums. It's just their one appearance for those positions.
Different drummers on Clumsy, You Are Freaking Me Out, and Astray all have different drummers.
Yeah, it's funny. They let Martin Braum write 2 songs on the album, The Pith and Go Away, and you can totally tell that they were written by someone other than Lubkov and Brogan, which you can even tell which songs Brogan wrote versus Lubkov. You really only notice if you're looking at who wrote what on the liner notes.
Yeah.
But when you are listening to it with that in mind, you can tell that it's a different guitarist, at least, writing the songs, because they're structured slightly differently. And I think The Pith and Go Away are the 2 worst songs on the album. And it sucks because they're right dead in the middle. They're track 4 and 5.
They're right next to each other.
After the trio of great opening tracks, Don't Break Me, Well, and Head Trap are all great. Then after Go Away is Why, Where, and When, which I think is probably the best song on the album.
Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to the track listing, so a lot of my opinion of it is kind of more of an overall, not so much track by track, but definitely I noticed some of the the faster, harder stuff was kind of sounded like Leatherface to me.
I've seen that comparison,
and I never really would have thought to compare Leatherface because I'm so much more used to how more melodic, more rocky.
Well, Leatherface are fucking important to punk rock. And I feel like a lot of people today don't realize what impact they actually had on the genre.
Yeah, how much was Jawbreaker influenced by Leatherface? How much Dillinger 4
I would
was
not be
influenced
surprised.
By Leatherface?
Yeah, Hot Water Music definitely was in. Everything in that Latterman inspired, that owes a ton to Leatherface. It basically, if anything that wasn't pop punk, but still punk, and not artsy Discord style punk, just melodic yet mature sounding punk, that's Leatherface, all the way. Which I guess that also is Husker Du.
Yeah.
I bet Leatherface was influenced by Husker Du. You also have to remember though, Leatherface is British, so they also have those bands to influence them.
The Clash, definitely, but
yeah, I like it. A lot of people call it an emo album, or it's called Samiam an emo band at this point, and I guess I could see that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that sort of a little bit of Revolution kind of influence in Dag kind of influence, but
yeah,
I don't think it's that much like what emo was like, though.
No, especially when we talk about our EP later.
That to me of what 1992 emo sounded.
Yeah, because I guess they're based. You can look at the lyrics, I guess, too, and they're definitely very introspective lyrics. He seems to. I wonder if he suffers from depression, because if you look at his lyrics, he doesn't seem to be having a good time ever on any album. I mean, it could be his outlet, I guess.
I don't know, though. They're like a fun band live.
That's true. So maybe it is just it's his outlet.
They're pretty
I don't know.
upbeat, fun band live. I mean, yeah, there's definitely songs about people committing suicide
dull.
And, you know,
a
lot of, like, depressing relationship stuff.
Yeah. Dull is interesting, because that's, like, one of their biggest, like, fan favorite songs, and it's such a dark song. Yeah. And just, like, watching an entire room sing along to it, it's like, whoa. How many times have you seen Sam I Am? Not to brag.
I mean, seeing them at Fest isn't really bragging, because they play, like...
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how many times I've actually seen them. I want to say 4 or 5 times.
I want to say twice for me, honest. I don't think I've seen them that many times, because I know I've seen them I saw them in the venue, which...
Yeah.
Fest goer, you know what that is.
The Florida Theater of Gainesville.
Which, honestly, I wish that they would use it again as a venue. Let's just go on this tangent and talk about Gainesville venues.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I hate Bo Diddley Arena. I hate it so much. I mean, for an outdoor stage, it's fine, I guess. But I do not want to be outdoors to watch my punk rock.
It's the most lifeless, like, blood-sucking way to watch a band. Just watch Iron Chic at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday at Bo Diddley and just be like, I love Iron Chic. I know the words to every song on these records, and I want to scream along to them, but because I don't want to get in the pit. Like, I don't want to get all the way down in the pit. So.
We did that for, Snapcase and Superchunk, and that was it. And it was actually pretty tame then.
Yeah, it was a bunch of old guys watching those bands.
Yeah.
It's not the guys that have been for 3 days in a row.
It's the ones who've been pacing themselves. Yeah, like when we saw AJJ play out there, it was just, they're one of my all-time favorite bands, and I'm like, are they done yet? Yeah. It just sucks all the fun out of them. Yeah.
10 miles away watching Descendants tune up their drums.
I know a lot of people had problems with the venue, but I don't know. I feel like there was always a good spot. Because the way the floor was tiered.
Right. You could get pretty close, but not be standing behind some 6'5" dude. Like, you can see, you can get close. It sounds mostly fine. Like, I know a lot of people complained, speaking of that year, which I guess was Fest 12?
Maybe, because they've used the outdoor stage 4 years in a row now.
Fest 12, which was actually my first Fest. Mm-hmm. Though 11 was supposed to be my first Fest.
Yeah, we had to sell your ticket
because I had to be in a wedding.
Stupid wedding.
Have to be in a wedding. I just felt like I should. Sorry, man. Got Fest tickets.
I've already had them for a while.
Should have asked me sooner. Which, speaking of the Fest 12 lineup,
that was a really good one, right?
Oh, geez. That is the year, though, that I watched all, just so that we could see one new Descendants song.
Yeah, and it was like a 30-second song too, wasn't it?
It was just like a 2-minute. Just like, I don't even know this. It sounds like shit because these guitars sound like shit.
It was so funny because everybody was like, "Well, I gotta watch all because what if Milo comes out and plays a Descendants song with him?" Because he had been seen there. Like, everybody knew Milo was there. So
yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. I want to watch Lucero. Or no, it was Ben Nichols solo, but still.
Yeah.
And then when Ben Nichols was done playing, I walked immediately into the venue. Like, everybody thought they had to, like, get in there early just in case they weren't going to be able to get in there. And I would just stroll in there. Watch all songs.
Me and Grant standing in the venue, like, watching Lawrence Arms play only newer stuff, like "Oh Calcutta" and newer.
Yeah, that's all they play anymore.
Then All, and I don't know a single one of these songs, and they sound And then Milo comes out and they play a new Descendants song.
Yeah. And I saw that. I didn't have to sit through the whole all set to hear that song.
Pissed.
Well, that's the price you pay at Fest some years.
So I really wish that they would bring the venue back as an option, because I would rather watch a lot of the bands that play in, what's it called now? Is it 8 Seconds again? Or
yeah, it's back to being called 8 Seconds because it was called Cowboys at one point.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's what it's called again, though I really don't know why.
The owners of the Cowboy Bar keep fighting about the name, I guess.
But that's where they do the wrestling now on Sundays every year, which they just put up the lineup for that, and I'm excited for a couple of them that are going to be there. Yeah, the first time I saw Samiam, I think, was Fest 8. It was... Yes, that was the first year they played Fest. And so I saw them then. I want to say they came back for 9, maybe. And then I saw them at 12. And I saw them at Crazy Fest one year. And then I saw them last year. We both saw them last year in the Woolly, where they played a mystery set, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I think those are the only 2 times I've seen Samiam. So
yeah, they're great. I mean, even the new album was great. Yeah, I think. I found out something weird. So this album was produced by Armand John Petrie, who I did not know who that dude was. But he's such a weird choice because he's most famous for producing like a bunch of Goo Goo Dolls albums, like mainly the earlier ones when they were on Metal Blade Records for some reason. But he also produced a bunch of Bride albums.
No way.
Yeah. And a shitload of Sixpence None the Richer albums.
What?
Specifically when they were on REX Records, the Christian record label.
Yeah.
And he even did Driver 8, their album for Tooth and Nail. So I was like, what? This guy's got a lot of weird Christian music connections. Like,
yeah, that is weird.
Why is he doing Sam I Am? I mean, I guess he was local.
Where is he from?
I have no idea. I imagine California.
Let's see. I don't know. I want to say he's from Buffalo because he went to the university.
And why would you go there?
Weird.
He did some 10,000 Maniacs records too.
I saw that.
He's like bragging about his Dove Award.
Yeah.
So weird.
He must have just been available. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what he did. Used him for their recording.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt they were Bride fans. No one is a Bride fan.
Like Goo Goo Dolls?
Maybe.
Did he do those early enough?
Yeah, those were like 1990. Yeah, there's nothing
that's
like
the only thing that makes.
It's one of his earliest albums that he produced. It's like in the first couple of years he started producing. I mean, I guess it's totally just based on what the label could get a hold of. Maybe it was a studio issue. Like maybe it's where they recorded it at, and he just worked out of there, and they were just like, "Well, we'll just use him."
He did some technical work on some Manowar records.
It says mixed by Robbie Goo Goo. Who's Robbie Goo Goo? I bet he's Goo Goo Doll related.
So is Billy.
What?
So are the Goo Goo Dolls responsible for Sam I Am?
For Billy, at least.
Signed to a major label?
Yeah, the album was mixed by Robbie Goo Goo, which is the name of the alias of Robbie Takak of the Goo Goo Dolls, primarily for his technical roles. He's the bass player of the Goo Goo Dolls. And they used the producer from who did Goo Goo Dolls albums at the time. So why? I don't... Recorded by Billy Anderson. Let me guess, he's the Goo Goo Dolls tech guy?
They got... Yeah, because the Goo Goo Dolls are from Buffalo. So this producer's from Buffalo. So Sam I Am went all the way from Berkeley, California to Buffalo to record this record. It definitely seems like Billy was...
No. It was recorded at Razor's Edge in San Francisco, California. But it was mixed at Trackmaster Buffalo, New York. So I'm assuming the engineer is the reason why they recorded it. Because they're from Berkeley, which is like near San Francisco. And this makes more sense because the guy who recorded it, his name is Billy Anderson. Oh, fuck. Here's why. He produced Bivouac. Or at least was the engineer on it or something. Yeah. And Sleep's Holy Mountain, Buzz Oven, J Church Prophylaxis, Sick of It All, Neurosis. Wow, Through Silver and Blood. That makes total sense now. So I guess they just sent it to the studio in Buffalo to just like polish it. Maybe I don't know.
So, so I'm still wondering though. Like,
is that why? Yeah, maybe that dude passed.
Robbie Goo Goo sent it to like an A&R guy that he knew or something, and maybe just got passed around a little bit. And then they got picked up.
Were the Goo Goo Dolls ever on Tooth and? God, why do I keep saying that? Were they ever on Atlantic?
No, they were on Warner. Warner was the big label that they signed with.
And they were at Metal Blade, which I still don't understand why. Yeah, that's strange.
Atlantic is owned by Warner Music. So when did Warner take over Atlantic? Oh. Yeah, that would make sense. So there's definitely the Goo Goo Dolls are responsible for Sam I Am most popular and
Boy
best records.
Goo.
So are they
That's so
nascent
funny.
Goo core?
Is that a genre now?
That's what people called beach slang when they first came out.
I can see that.
Goo Goo Dolls and Jawbreaker.
That's funny. I mean, the production's pretty good on it too. Like it's got a real big sound, which is funny for '92. I didn't think they were still doing that big of a sound.
Yeah, Atlantic Records has been owned by Warner Brothers since 1967. So.
Oh, from the beginning. So yeah, definitely that means Goo Goo Dolls are definitely responsible for Sam I Am signing to Atlantic. That's hilarious.
We've revealed their secret.
You know, I've never heard that ever mentioned.
No one ever talks about it. I mean, people hardly talk about the fact that they were on a major label for 3 records, and that's why most people know who they are. Most punks our age know who Sam I Am are because...
You said 3? Clumsy.
You Are Freaking Me Out. Stray.
Actually, no, that was Ignition.
Right. You Were Freaking Me Out was Ignition too. Weird. For some reason, I always assumed You Were Freaking Me Out was... So they got dropped fast. This didn't do what we wanted.
That album, yeah. And then so they got on Ignition because they were just on another major, so they got lucky. And yeah, and Astray was Hopeless Records. But Astray also came out, You Were Freaking Me Out came out in 97, and Astray was 2000, so it took a few years off. Lost some band members.
Yeah, so Billy.
Yeah. It's got a what did I say? It's got a 3.34, and that actually ties on Rate Your Music, which ties it with Clumsy for the 3rd highest rated Sam I Am album. Do you know what the highest rated Sam I Am album is?
You Are Freaking Me Out?
Nope. That's number 2. Number 1 is actually Stray, which is what I say. It's my favorite most of the time. But then I would even put Trips as 2nd. And then Clumsy.
I would probably say Astray, Clumsy, You Are Freaking Me Out. My top 3.
Maybe. I like Trips a lot. I listen to that album a lot, which is weird because it only has a 3.22. That's pretty low. Punk ratings on Rate Your Music are very weird because Iron Chic will have a 3.0, and I consider that a 5-star album. You know, the first album.
Well,
and then you'll see people it's a little derivative. I was punk in general is a little derivative.
Yeah, that's the problem with Rate Your Music is that a lot of the people on here, they're not really punks. But they'll listen to these punk records and then rate them, and then it's just you don't know what you're talking about. You're ruining these charts.
They're usually metalheads, and metalheads for some reason hate punks, or they don't necessarily hate them, but I don't know. Maybe there's some
go out of their way to rate records on punk records. It's all punk sucks. 1 star, 1 star. Bring all the average ratings way down.
And then the indie guys don't see punk as legitimate sometimes, but then they'll turn around and they'll drool all over any 77 inspired punk album that comes out on a semi-major independent label. It's it just is another knockoff of the Sex Pistols, or
opposed anything that's influenced by Wire.
5 stars,
but Pink Flag Wire, not Chairs Missing. The better Wire. Controversial opinions.
Yeah, hot takes on this show. So what would you rate your music for Sam I Am's Billy? Billy?
I want to say probably a 4 overall.
Yeah, that's what I gave it. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of in the context of stuff that we've talked about on this show so far, maybe even more a 4.5. But
that's true. Yeah, I gave it a 4.0. It's firmly in the middle of Samiam's discography overall, but definitely at the top of the ones we've done on the show so far. All right, then I guess we will move over to our EP of the episode. This was number 39 on the EP list, and the name of the band is Lava, and the name of the release is Lava. Lava. I knew nothing about this band going in.
You're not the yacht rock band or the progressive rock band.
Nope.
Here we go. The American emo band Lava.
From Baltimore, Maryland.
The Rage 4 only shows this single EP.
Yes, they did release one other, it was like a cassette on Vermin Scum Records. It was like a single-sided cassette.
Included on one user's list, hardcore, and mentioned in the discussion thread bands for fans of Indian Summer and Native Nod? ?
Do you want to know why they're for fans of Indian Summer and Native Nod?
They sound like Indian Summer and Native
well,
Nod.
also, this EP came out on Gravity Records, and it was Gravity Records number 2.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Heroin's self-titled 7-inch was number 1. This Lava self-titled 7-inch is number 2. So it's like, oh, that's why this band is good. Yeah. I really liked it. Like, I liked it a lot. But I'm also a huge fan of this style, like this emotional hardcore style from like late 80s, early 90s. The Embrace, Righteous Spring, Family, Revolution, Summer, Family.
The aged sound of it, kind of the later. Heroin, Mohinder.
Yeah, I mean, the Gravity Records discography.
Click its hat. Towie.
Yeah, Heroin. It really sounded like a couple Sarah Kirsch bands from this time, like Sawhorse and John Henry West, and even the vocalist. So the vocalist kind of sounded like Guy Picciotto. How the fuck you say his name? And a little bit of like Sean Linwood from Navio Forge and Admiral.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that this band hasn't come up sooner for me.
Right. You'd think that at the stuff we were into, we would have found this band a long time ago. Or at least have heard of them before. Because, like, I don't listen to a lot of Mohinder, but I know exactly who they are. And, okay, so I had to do a little digging, and I found out some of the band members. They should really be talked about due to some of what these band members were in. So the lineup is Eric Racinos on vocals, Sean Cirio and Tony Joy on guitar, Scott Dillon on bass, and Mark Lawrence on drums. Mark Lawrence and Tony Joy were in Moss Icon.
What?
Yeah. They were in a bunch of Moss Icon albums. Also, Tony Joy was in Born Against.
Really?
Yeah. So why the fuck does no one talk about this band?
It's a great 7-inch.
I loved it. I enjoyed every second of it. I mean, the quality was rough because it's obviously a vinyl rip. We had to watch it on YouTube, and we'll include a link to the video in the show description, and then we'll tweet it out too. Inside baseball here. We're recording these really far in advance, so if I forget to do that by the time this episode comes out, please excuse me. But you can really just find it if you go into YouTube and type in Lava Gravity Records or Lava 7-inch, and it'll pop up. I don't know. I had a lot of fun listening to it.
It got me a little nostalgic for a lot of the stuff, because I feel like I got into this stuff like in college 5-6 years ago.
Yeah,
and I really love that sound. Like I feel like even pre-college, because I feel like a lot of the stuff like Moss Icon, bands like that, definitely we got into listening anything that was like recommended on Zen and the Art of Face Punching.
Oh man, that was an awesome blog for a long time too.
So that would have been 2008. Really, we're reading that 10 years ago.
Yeah, back when music blogs were like how you found music that you'd never heard of. And it's a very educational tool too, because this type of like emo is not talked about very often. Like you hear about Embrace and Rites of Spring, but that's purely because of the Fugazi connection and Minor Threat.
Yeah.
Because unless you're a super nerd, you're not talking about Hoover or Gray Matter or Moss Icon, you know.
Yeah, it really blew my mind that there was a Reverb.com article about the defining guitarists and gear of 90s hardcore punk that mentioned Sarah Kirsch and Keith Huckins, Rorschach did.
Yeah, those aren't really... You don't ever hear anyone talk about any of that kind of stuff. I mean, part of it is because most of it was recorded real cheaply, so they all have real rough sounding recordings.
Yeah.
But that like totally just added to the edge of it, I think. Like it's what made it unique. And it's what led into Screamo. Like, yeah, this sound is essentially responsible for Screamo.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have your Touche Amores and your Loma Prietas today without...
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have your early bands. You wouldn't have your Seisha. You wouldn't have your... any of that without Gravity Records. Without
your Orchid. For better or worse. I know a lot of people make fun of Screamo because it's very easy to make fun of. I think it's because it's so self-serious, too.
Looking back at that, it's funny seeing all the people... why aren't you talking about Botch? Why aren't you talking about... It's because everyone knows what their gear.
Yeah, nobody really knows what Sarah Kirsch was using unless you knew her.
You saw any of those bands.
Or saw them. I imagine it was cheap stuff, right?
She played... I think mostly played S and Marshall Stacks, honestly, which is kind of interesting. Like I think the most interesting, revealing metal picks. Yeah.
Really?
Which makes a lot of sense. That's kind of her guitar sound. It's very sharp.
Yeah.
But yeah, like speaking of like Moss Icon, I mean honestly most people what they could. So
yeah,
maybe an old JCM Marshall.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't a gear-driven genre. It was just like what you could find that was decently priced and sounded good. And you'd maybe level up after a while. Like, I imagine she probably had better gear when she was doing Please Inform the Captain.
Yeah, and the letter.
Yeah. But, like, her Sawhorse stuff and those Sawhorse EPs are real rough. And the John Henry West, like, I have the discography LP, and there's some rough sounding stuff on there. I mean, it's just because of where they recorded and probably how cheap the recording was, but... Yeah, I really liked this EP a lot. I mean, it's only four songs, but I usually when I'm like going through the albums, I tend to like rate the songs too, and I gave them all 4 points or higher. Like I really liked 101 and God, the first two tracks. I gave those a 4.5 each. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It has a 3.43 on Rate Your Music, which is pretty high for something this obscure, but I'm assuming it's just because the only people rating it are people who are purposely sought it out.
People listening to Gravity Record.
Yeah, And as number 2, you're going to hit it very quickly.
It's definitely underrated. You should definitely look it up. If you like anything in that, from that era, I mean, if you like Shotmaker, Hoover,
Crown Hate Ruin,
give this a shot.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
I would give it a 4.5, honestly.
This is the highest rated thing this is the best thing I think I've listened to on this show so far. I mean, this is episode 3? Yeah, this is only episode 3. And so we've only done 6 albums total, but
it definitely sets a high bar.
Yeah, it really does. And it's definitely one of the more rewarding entries we've had so far, which is what I want out of this show the most. I want to be exposed to things I'd never listened to, or things that I thought I wouldn't like, and turns out, hey, I did like that. But
yeah, this is definitely a good discovery.
Okay. So, you want to know what we're going to do next week?
Sure.
So, everyone's going to call bullshit on this, but I 100% got this using number generators. I promise.
Morality.
It's not that unbelievable. It's not going to be that hard to believe how I got it once I tell you how many albums there were. Okay, so for the year, I got 1976.
Nice.
The year punk was born.
Number 1.
And for the album, I got number 1 on the list. And come on, the number 1 album of 1976 under punk is the Ramones' self-titled album. Because of course it is. You may be going, oh, bullshit. There were other albums. Why didn't you get one of those? There were only 6 albums on this chart. So I random generated it. It went to number 1. And here's the next fun thing. So for the EPs, I random number generated it. And I got number 6. And it was a band called the Bizarros. And I cannot find it anywhere. I cannot find the Bizarros. Okay. So then I number generated again. And I got number 1 again. And there were only 7 EPs on this list.
So we got Richard Hell,
Another World, Blank Generation, You Gotta Lose, only 7-inch EP.
That's a good one too.
All of those songs are on the LP. All of those songs are on the first Richard Hell album, but these are different recordings. So the Ramones, that's on Spotify. That's on every music streaming service on the planet, I'm sure. The Richard Hell one, you have to go to YouTube to do. So I will send out a link to the YouTube link, but I did find one. It's the actual EP and the EP versions of these 3 songs. I also didn't realize that Another World song was like 7 minutes long. So, year 1 of punk. Year 1, number 1.
Could you be more obvious? How about
fucking
Beethoven side 1,
track 1, side 1 of the Beatles. But I mean, I kind of love that this has come up this early in the show, because we should talk about the Ramones' first record as one of the first records we talk about. Because without it,
you don't have punk.
We would have we'd have the Sex Pistols. Which even then, they were inspired by the Ramones. So, yeah, cool. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode. You can follow us on Twitter at punklautopod, or you can send us an email at punklautopod@gmail.com. Rate and subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you prefer to listen to. Anything else we want to plug?
Not yet. Someday.
All right, everybody. I guess we'll talk to you later.
So did we win or lose this time? We won!
We won!